And now, broadcasting from Title. And now, broadcasting from Title. And now, broadcasting from Titletown, USA. Here's Joe Simon.
And it's fabulous to be with you today. I appreciate you inviting me into wherever you are, your car, your phone, your home, on a walk, working out, lots of ways to do this. And it's a pleasure to be here with you this hour, sharing just a few minutes. We're going to look at a mosaic of different topics today. We haven't had a show like this in a long time. So imagine you just got back from vacation and you have a stack of U.S. mail, old-fashioned mail that came in the mailbox. That's this thick. And it's a little daunting, a little overwhelming. And I'm going to help you tear through that today. I'm going to summarize and get to the real core of things that we want to look at and get into today. 3 or 4 key things as it relates to you and your money. This is really a show today, and in most of the shows, if you're noticing, that center on people that are in the ages of 59 to 69 years old. Not to say that if you're out of bounds, if you're younger, or if you're a little older, but our focus really is the things that people are going through leading up to, and especially when you're at that 59, 60, 65 to 70 age. There's lots of things. The junk mail that comes through, some of it no longer looks like junk mail. And you take a little longer to digest it, understand it, to wrestle with it. And that's really what we try to do with these podcast shows, to educate, to inform, to have some fun doing it along the way. But like I said, we have some big things that we want to talk about today that I've got in my mail on my priority list as I continue to try to sharpen my axe to be smarter and better and know the best people to surround myself with when it comes to these subjects. So here we go. Buckle up. Item number 1 today is I want to revisit and continue to talk about fixed indexed annuities. That's the last time I want to use that label because it can be a little bit offsetting, and people discount it when they hear that phrase annuities. Sometimes I think it's gotten a lot better over the last several years, and actions speak louder than words. We've seen record amounts of money, billions over the last 4 to 5 years since 2020, moving into this particular product. And there's a few main reasons, but primarily the reason is that guarantee of a zero floor. And what I mean by that is that when the market goes south below zero into negative territory, negative 13, negative 20, negative 28, some of us have lived through that over the years. And the big thing there is it takes time to recover everything you lost. Well, the fixed indexed annuity is built to stop the bleeding at zero. As the market continues to drop, whenever that happens in the future, that's just the way the market lives and breathes. So we can count on it going negative at some point in the next 20 years, in the next 10 years, in the next 5 years, in the next year. I don't know. But who's to say when that happens? So we have that zero, and it stops at zero, and it preserves our balance from the year before. Beautiful thing. That's the FIA, the fixed indexed annuity. But one of the things that has been coming up in the year of 2026 here is the bonuses that they build into these product designs. And by that I mean, let's say it's a 7 or 10 or 20%, 25% bonus on new money coming in the first 12 months. There are products like that do that. Are there strings attached? Well, we could say there are strings attached. Let me say it this way. There's no free lunch. So they're not going to allow us to take $100,000 and set it in and get a 21% bonus on that money. And then a year later, a 2 year later, or 3 year, maybe even longer, you come back and say, I want all my money plus the bonus, plus the growth, and then we're going to go somewhere else with it. That's not going to happen. That's not the mindset we want to use in this product design. Does that make sense? I think it does. It's just the way it works in these product designs. So we want to know what those strings are. We want to know what the guidelines are, where the bumpers are, before we jump in with both feet on these bonuses, right? That just makes sense. Is it a fee? Is it a one-time type of fee that's surrounded by that? Is it part of the surrender charge that all fixed index annuities will have? If you're looking at a 21% bonus, possibly, you're probably going to see about a 10 to 12 year reducing surrender charge. And we can get into all of that in another discussion, but just take notes on that. There are probably some strings attached to these bonuses. You want to know how long that's going to be and how much that's going to cost you if you were to try to jump out and get out early. Amongst other things, why you want to understand what the surrender charge covers and the riders and the fees involved with that, if there are some. Just common sense things that you walk through with your insurance advisor on understanding the benefits of this tool called a fixed indexed annuity. The last part to that I want to talk about for maybe 30 seconds is the caps that are in these fixed indexed annuities. So the fixed indexed annuity gives you access to mirrored indexes. So for example, the S&P 500 is an index, and you can find a fixed indexed annuity with a mirrored S&P 500 index choice in there for you. But it's never going to match exactly what that index does. So for example, the S&P 500 does 24% this year for the year. Your mirrored indexed option you chose in the fixed indexed annuity isn't going to be that number. It's going to be less. It might be half of that. It might be a percentage less than half. But it's what we're starting to see is some of these indexes are saying we'll give you a 50% match on this S&P 500 mirrored index. So if the S&P does 24%, you'll make 12% on it this year. And remember what happens if the S&P goes south and does a negative 13 for the year. You'll see a 0 result on that mirrored index that you can choose from, not a negative 13. So that's how they can afford to do that, is by capping off the results of that particular mirrored index. More on that. A personal discussion is needed with a qualified insurance advisor. But I wanted to point that out to you because there has been movement in these fixed index annuities with these caps changing for the better as they really settle in and understand how to manage these for their customers, their clients. Let's move on. Let's talk about gold and silver. Physical gold and silver. Lots of talk. It's a hot topic. There's a lot woven into our monetary system when it comes to gold and silver. You see it moving by the day when the politics of the world, especially in the Middle East, during this time in our year of 2026 take place. Some days it's good, some days it's bad. Gold and silver on a physical basis is different than going out and buying a fund that's a precious metals fund. Similar but different. A good friend of mine, one of our subject matter experts on this, likes to say the difference between physical gold and silver and something that says you have it on paper is you're going onto the Titanic and they're handing out life jackets. That's real gold. That's physical gold and silver, versus getting a certificate as you're walking on the Titanic that says we have a life jacket on a reservation for you. It's down the hall and up the steps. When it comes to that scenario, would you rather have the certificate or would you rather have the life jacket around your neck as you walk to your cabin? So that's the difference between gold, physical gold and silver. What's the big deal? The big deal is it really is an offset. Really how it works, the math behind this works, is when you see one segment of the market go up, gold and silver typically go down. We've been living in times throughout the last 24 months where many times both have been up and both have been down. Historically, we see it as a teeter-totter effect. We see it as wealth assurance. Having about 20% of your portfolio in physical gold and physical silver, and in particular pre-1933 U.S. coins, for a whole nother discussion. And go to my website, joesimon.solutions. Look under the podcast archives, and you'll find in-depth discussion on that with our subject matter experts that we rely on to be a part of the buying and selling of physical gold and silver and the pre-33 coins when it's time to do that for our clients. Fascinating. Right now, I'm extremely fascinated with silver and what that's been doing kind of out of nowhere. Silver had a tough go in the 70s and kind of had a bruise on its shoulder, but all of a sudden, out of nowhere, silver is becoming something that people want to understand more of. And why not? It's not only a great investor type of vehicle, but it's also a commodity in the things we're using today, from our cell phones to other AI related things to manufacturing. So gold and silver, the physical stuff, learn more about that. Go to our website, do some homework. We're here to talk to you more about that. Two more subjects I want to dig into quickly. Another subject we've been talking long and hard about is, as we grow older, our life expectancy is growing longer. So everybody doesn't live to the magical age of 79 years old anymore. The statistics they use when people say, take your Social Security at 62 because you're not going to live long enough to get those benefits, is all based on someone living to age 79. But from personal experience, we know that those projections aren't the same for everybody. Some people live a shorter life because of their family history. Some people live a longer life. For example, in my particular case, in the applications that I've gone through to try to screen in and fill out what my possible life expectancy is much longer than 79. So I'm somebody that's looking at waiting till the very longest period of time possible to get the best benefit out of Social Security based on what my personal life expectancy is. So all that to say, let's get back to the long-term care discussion here. What happens if you're somebody that needs long-term care and has a long life after that, lives till 95, 97, 100, 105, and your spouse does too? Lots of dollars involved. We know the minimums right now are around $100,000 to as much as $125,000 a year with a 7% compounding interest rate. So that brings us to the story of Darlene. Darlene had what she felt was a useless old 401k, or not 401k, annuity, a useless old annuity, quote unquote. And she wanted to see if there were other ways to do something with it. Through various discussions, long discussions, one of the other things she had that she was fearful of was not having enough money to take care of herself as she aged. She was 68 or 69. And from personal experience, seeing what some of a close personal friend went through when it came to the costs of long-term care and really wanting quality care in her most vulnerable years. Most of us can relate to that, right? Good story here. $300,000 in this old sort of useless annuity. And we looked at ways to improve that. We took $200,000 and used an example of improving that by putting it into an annuity that gave her some of those investment choices, like a fixed indexed annuity with a rider. So there was a little bit of a fee attached to that to put that on next to, snap it onto this fixed indexed annuity. That was a long-term care rider. And what that did was it took her $200,000 and turned it into $624,000 guaranteed long-term care benefit dollars. Long-term care benefit dollars. Right out of the chute at her age of 69. So let's fast forward and see what the guarantees showed us. Let's pick 11 years. Let's say at her age of, she got in at 68. So the numbers started at 69. So here we are at age 79. We see the guaranteed dollars, benefit dollars for long-term care went from $624,000 to $863,762, which translated into $14,396 for the rest of her life. Wow. Multiplying those dollars, tripling tripling, more than tripling those dollars that she took out of a old, useless, in her words, annuity. Well, let's say she didn't need those dollars. Let's say she was 85 when she needed these benefit dollars. So at age 85, the benefit dollars went from being a $624,000 guarantee in year one of long-term care benefits for long-term care reasons, and it was over $1 million in long-term care benefit dollars, which gave her over $17,000 a month in long-term care benefit dollars. So what is that about? What am I trying to summarize here? We want to kind of stamp on our brain this term beneficial money. You have great money and you've done great things with your money and worked hard for it, but is it beneficial? Is it doing more than one thing for you? Being invested, rising, falling, dropping below zero, coming back, recovering, that whole scenario. Wouldn't it make it more interesting if we could lock in on some of those dollars to guarantee that your peace of mind, your fear can be dispelled with dollars set aside, multiplied for your long-term care needs into the future? That's the story of Darlene. We could do this for you. I'd love to show you an illustration on how that works out in the near future. Lots more information on how something like that worked. Go to one of my most recent podcasts, and it's with a subject matter expert, Mike Smith. So go to my site, joesimon.solutions, look for the podcast where I host Mike Smith, and we get into various cases with illustrations on the screen where you can see the numbers. Fascinating. It'll help you be a better student of this. Speaking of being a better student, here's the last subject for today. And it's something that I really wrinkled my nose about for many years and avoided. I happened to be at a conference, financial conference, where we were hearing a lot of things from a lot of great speakers, smart people, subject matter experts. I almost took a break and stepped out for 50 minutes when this subject expert came in, but I decided to hang in and hear more about it. And it's all about reverse mortgages. And what caught my ear, and I'm kind of paging through some of the approved material they handed out at this particular conference I was at. What caught my ear and seems to be a game changer, I'm still not all in on it, I'm learning, just like some of you are, is this term called HECMSs. Long story short, it's a federal government guarantee wrapped in these reverse mortgages. There's several types of reverse mortgages, but only HECMS reverse mortgages will have this for you with the backing in part by the federal government. And in short, what it means is a reverse mortgage is you have your $400,000 home, you sell it in a reverse mortgage move, and you're allowed to stay there for as long as you want. And perhaps the full amount, typically it's around 80% of the full value of your home is paid to you in lump sum or over a long period of time. So let's say you take it all out. It's $300,000 after you sign the papers and you're ready to move on with this in this reverse mortgage, this HECMS reverse mortgage. $300,000 from $400,000. And you die eventually. And the market goes south. And in fact, when the house is sold, it's sold for less than what you owe on this bundle of money that was sent to you, $300,000. It's sold for $200,000. There's a $100,000 deficit. At this point, in how I understand it, what we're hearing is that these HECMS backed reverse mortgages will make you whole and will pay the entire mortgage off, even the shortage. So the beauty behind that is it helps your family, your survivors, maybe your kids, and not owing anything back on a mortgage that still had $100,000. Because remember, you took $300,000 out day one when you signed the papers for the reverse mortgage. The house was valued at $400,000. They paid you $300,000. there was still $100,000 equity in the home, and you died and the market plunged during a time before you died, and the house did not sell for what was paid out to you. So I love that loan forgiveness backed by the federal government. There's a lot more to learn. I would challenge you to go out and learn more about these types of reverse mortgages. I'm going to continue to step through this and study it and connect with some subject matter experts on this that are teaching this and approved to instruct on it. Here's an idea. Maybe we have one of those instructors, one of those subject matter experts join us here in the near future as we walk through this together on reverse mortgages. I don't know. Does that sound like a good idea? I think it might. Might be time. Imagine what that could do in your planning as you get closer to the goal line, crossing into retirement. Maybe you're in retirement now. If you're 62 or older, this is something that you could possibly engage in immediately as a reverse mortgage, that HECMS backed mortgage. Good stuff. Well, that's it for today. I want to say I appreciate you. I appreciate us learning together and learning about each other together. And what I always like to leave the show with is have a prosperous day.
You've been listening to the Joe Simon Podcast. Big ideas with powerful stories and real-time solutions. Business succession planning, executive benefits, employee benefits, tax beneficial savings, and more. Remember, information discussed here today is dated and not specific to your situation. Always seek personal counsel from qualified advisors. Joe Simon is a licensed insurance agent in the state of Wisconsin. Licensed to advise on accident and health, life insurance, disability insurance, and annuities, as well as qualified long-term care insurance.